Today, we've got a full 45 minutes conversation. We could probably spend days having this conversation. So we'll try to keep to our time limit. And last fall in December, we were really fortunate to have Reggie Stroble join us to talk about specifically how we can support Black male students. There's been such a heightened awareness, I feel like, in the last year, particularly given the pandemic, about concern regarding Black male students not enrolling at our institutions, not finishing degrees, and a heightened awareness of how we can better support this population. If you weren't able to join us in December for kind of part one of this discussion, I'm just going to give a brief introduction to Reggie and to our student guest as well. Reggie's the Assistant Director of Student Success in the Achievement Program at Anne Arundel Community College, where he coordinates the Black Male Initiative. Reggie, I'm going to make sure that you give us just a brief overview too of your background, because it's such an incredible story. And I was really fortunate to have the opportunity to get to work with Reggie at J. Sargent Reynolds Community College many years ago in a leadership development program. So Reggie, welcome. We're so glad to have you with us today. And Reggie was great enough. One of the comments that came out of our discussion in December was that we really love to hear from a student perspective. I think that's so powerful when we listen to our students, and we talk about that a lot in our podcast discussions. And so we're really fortunate that Reggie invited one of his former students. The connection here, you're my former student, Jawan's your former student. It makes me a little emotional. Jawan, and Jawan, would you mind unmuting and just sharing with us how to pronounce your last name? I should have asked that earlier.
Ajayi.
Ajayi. Jawan Ajayi is currently a student at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, where he is studying computer engineering. Prior to UMBC, he was a student at Anne Arundel Community College, where he participated in the Black Male Initiative. At UMBC, Jawan is a McNair student ambassador and also a teaching fellow in the McNair program. And his plans post-graduation this spring are to pursue graduate studies in electrical engineering, all of which is amazing to me, because that involves a lot of math, and math is not my thing, Jawan. I needed somebody like you. So we've got 4 pretty robust questions to talk about today, but I just want to remind our listening audience, if you have questions, if there are comments and things you want to pose, please put that in our chat. We will weave that into our discussion today, because I know it's a robust one. So I'm going to actually skip around a little bit. Reggie, I like to do that. I would love it if the both of you, and maybe we'll let Reggie kick off and then Jawan, just kind of tell us a little bit about your educational journey, because there's such unique ones. And I think that's such an important part of our discussion today.
Absolutely. Thank you. So excited to be welcomed back. Happy Friday to everyone here. So as Meg said, my name is Dr. Reggie Stroble. I'm originally from Richmond, Virginia. I am a proud first-generation college student. My father received his GED. My grandfather received his GED, and I believe my grandfather's grandfather received his GED as well. So very early on, it was very important for me to break those the generational trauma and curses within my family for me to pursue my education. Didn't really start off strong in high school. I graduated with a 2.1 GPA. Found out about community college. I just wanted to get my associate's degree. Was able to be mentored by Meg Foster, and she was able to kind of really explore the field that there was actually a job field where I could actually work with students directly like myself. So decided after I graduated from community college to go to Virginia State University in Petersburg, Virginia, which is a historically Black college and university. Obtained my bachelor's in psychology degree. Graduated from there, got my master's in educational leadership from Virginia Tech, and decided to work for a little while. In 2017, was presented with the opportunity to get my doctorate degree in an EDD program. So I went to school on weekends and some weekdays as well, but I decided to go to school for 3 years straight, no breaks. I did summer, fall, spring, and summer, fall, spring. And I received my doctorate degree in the midst of the pandemic. So I received my doctorate degree in April 24th of 2020. So my doctoral anniversary is coming up next month. And when I got it, it was kind of, again, fresh pandemic, fresh kind of COVID, where everything was shutting down. So I didn't have a formal defense in front of my professors. I actually had to defend in a virtual space in Zoom. So that's a little bit about me and my educational background.
Thank you, Reggie. It's just such an incredible story. Jawan, would love to hear from you because you've had some similarities, I think, in educational journey, but also some pretty unique ones as well.
Hello, everyone. So my educational journey has kind of like been interesting and a little bit changed over time. So originally, I graduated from North County High School, which is in Glenburnie. It's in the Glenburnie area in Maryland. After graduating, my goal was to go straight into like a university. So I applied to like University of Maryland, Baltimore County, UMBC, but I didn't. Well, I got in with a condition of me completing 12 credit before I can actually come to UMBC. So I decided to go to AACC instead, which is Anne Arundel Community College. So I decided to go there instead. And while there, getting in there, I was able to get like at least at least one big scholarship that offered me about like $4,000 per semester to pay for school. I also got like financial aid, which basically means like throughout like my time, at least that first year at AACC, I wasn't going to pay for anything. So upon that, I decided that I might as well just stay at AACC and my associate degree, mainly because they can fund that and it's like less payment burden on me. So I was able to kind of stay at AACC for like around like for 6 semesters. I kind of did the same thing Dr. Reggie did, but a little bit different. So like every semester I was in classes, including summer, winter, except for winter. I didn't take winter classes. Like I just can't. It's too crazy. I really can't. But summertime, fall, every time I was in classes, trying to at least try to graduate that as soon as I can. I ended up spending about like 3 years there. I ended up getting my associate in engineering transfer, computer science, and also like mathematics before transferring to like UMBC. And then upon UMBC, I also upon getting to UMBC, I got like a little bit staggered in the beginning where for the first time in my life, I ended up with like a 2.6 GPA, which has never happened throughout my entire time in high school or even at AACC. So it was like a wake-up call and kind of like, I need to change the way that I'm studying and the way that I'm doing things, mainly because like what worked at AACC wasn't working for me at UMBC, since it's like extremely different area. So I had to change the way I was studying and the way I was approaching my classes and things like that. But while there, I was able to kind of like connect with programs that I know that serve underrepresented students, and which is kind of like one thing I've noticed, like with every of my success, including like high school and AACC, there's always a program that I'm part of that has really pushed me and helped me to be successful in my journey. And just being able to establish that at UMBC also helped, because my first semester, I really didn't have a community or anyone like that I can reach out to if I have any question or anything like that. So finding that at UMBC was really helpful. And once I found that, I was able to kind of like just ride the wave and just keep, going and, to try to achieve my goal. So originally I wanted to like do my master's in electrical engineering, but upon like joining the McNair Scholar program, they kind of like encouraged me to kind of go for the PhD and go for, kind of set my goal a little bit higher, which is why I am, planning on going straight into my PhD program upon graduating.
It's amazing. So were you not connected to the McNair program in your first semester at UMBC?
So my first year at UMBC, so I was working with the program. I wasn't connected like with the program. So like I wasn't part of the scholar program, but I was working with the program. So I was connected to them in a way that I was, basically I work for them. I wasn't really connected to like all the other resources that they might be able to have to kind of like help me and things like that. But even with that connection that I had with them, it also really did help me because originally, like, honestly, I was close to failing my first semester there, but I ended up with like 2 A's and 2 C's, which, I mean, again, trying to understand during that time, like, C doesn't really mean failing, but like to me, I felt like C was failing. So just being able to understand that that doesn't mean I failed the class. It means that I need to either like decide if I want to retake it or just move on. So one of the reasons why I kind of like even stayed a little bit longer at UMBC was because I tried to kind of like go back and retake some of the classes that I got C in that I know is really like important for like my degree. And I need to understand like the concept and the things that the class is teaching. So I go back and kind of like retake those so I can better improve like my knowledge about the topic and things like that.
Yeah, thank you, Jawan. I mean, and what a great tie-in to one of our kind of initial questions. So one of the things I've heard you saying is how important these programs have been, right, to your success. I also love that you're really sharing with us an example of growth mindset, right? Like that you had this grade of C and it was really this opportunity to kind of learn that first semester really helped you to understand how you needed to study, right? That was going to be a different experience at UMBC in your program than it had been at Anne Arundel. So I really appreciate that. Reggie, that's a nice tie into the Black Male Initiative at Anne Arundel. And could you give us just a little backstory about kind of how that program came to be and what it entails and maybe kind of where you see it going in the next couple of years or so?
Absolutely. So that's a great question. And one of the reasons that the Black Male Initiative exists is for students like Jawan, students who may need that kind of additional support. And again, as he mentioned, he struggled without McNair scholars, but then when he joined that program and actually had that support, he was able to excel. So Black Male Initiatives, they're really created to give students a sense of belonging on campus. And data is showing that when students feel that they belong on campus and that they're actively kind of engaged, their retention rates and persistence rates, they skyrocket through the roof. So the Black Male Initiative was created based on a need for retention and persistence of Black males at Anne Arundel Community College. So some of the things that we do within the initiative is we do 4 checkpoints per semester for students. So we do an initial advising appointment. We do a mid-semester check. We also do an end of the semester check, and then we just do a kind of general check-in of how things are going. So these appointments can last anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes, sometimes an hour, again, based on the student's needs at that moment. One of the other things that we also offer is monthly roundtable discussions. So one of the things that came out of our monthly roundtable discussion was to transition from actually calling it a Black Male Initiative to making it a Black Male Institute. Because with this initiative is really saying this is something we're just kind of starting and getting off the ground. But as you're looking at making this an institutional wide kind of focus, you want to call it more of a Black Male Institute to say, I'm just using myself as an example. I may be in charge of the Black Male Institute, but it's the institutional responsibility to actually be gathering as well. So we do have roundtable discussions. Those are once a month where we invite in campus partners. So we may invite in the Department of Psychology, Department of Business, School of Liberal Arts, where they come in and actually get an opportunity to have a kind of one-on-one talk with our African-American males on campus to let them know about different strategies for success, and then also different things that they can offer them to be successful at the school. We also offer a yearly summit where we bring in multiple speakers to kind of speak to our Black males. And then lastly, one of the things that we have implemented this semester, which has been really successful, we have implemented a faculty and staff meet and greet for our Black males. And we started, again, in this COVID environment, it has really forced us to think, how do we connect with students digitally as well, and how we're more inclusive in our practices. So we have started to utilize Google Jamboard. And if you're not familiar with Google Jamboard is a platform where students can ask questions anonymously and directly. So when there's something going on, they can ask it, but they don't necessarily have to speak out loud. And some of the questions that the students asked at the meet and greet, because we had VPs at this meet and greet, we had some faculty members, we had some deans. One of the students asked the deans, "Can we meet with you one-on-one?" And the deans actually responded and said yes. So that student had the flexibility of asking a question that they may wanted to ask, but not necessarily feeling that they were on the spot. So in general, that is the Black Male Initiative at AACC and some of the things that we do and provide for our students.
So that name change to me is really important. I mean, I think our language is so important. And so to say, this is our Black Male Institute, right? This is something our institution values. It's something we're investing in. It's not anything that's going anywhere, right? So important. How many students do you serve, Reggie, through your program?
That's a great question. So we serve all Black males on campus, but there are general touch points. So we're at about 50 to 60 right now, but we're looking to increase that number because, again, one of the things with the community college, there's always this transition in and transition out. So a student may be graduating, or some students come to community college for a semester or two. So it really fluctuates depending on the semester. So fall, we usually have the most participants, but right now in the spring, we're at about between 50 to 60 students.
Okay. And does this connect at all? I mean, and from my understanding, Joanne, the McNair program is part of the kind of larger umbrella of TRIO, if I'm remembering correctly. And so I'm wondering, Reggie, do your programs at all connect to like TRIO initiatives at Anne?
So that's so I know one of the questions asks about how to reach out, kind of to make those community partnerships. That's actually the next step within the Institute. And I know there's a couple of folks on the call who are doing kind of similar work as I am, but that is the next step. Whereas, if a student for 2 years has been getting this support, and then once they transition to a UMBC or University of Maryland, where they're going to these larger institutions, there are support offices there at the larger institutions, but I feel like it's our job, or my job at the community college, to make sure I have that connection to that resource so that student can feel that same support once they get on campus. Because for some students, as Jawan shared in his story, he had a 2.5, 2.6 his first semester, never really experienced that. Some of those students don't do what he did and go get the additional support. Some go on campus and they, within that first semester in this new environment, they're not successful, or they're not retained. So I think building that bridge, that it can burden some of the gaps. So once students do transition to a four-year institution, and we can do that same thing with the high school students who are transitioning to the larger four-year institutions as well. The summer bridge and summer bridge programming is the next step for our institute.
Okay. So that's one of those future visioning is going to be a summer bridge. Do you have a timeline for that?
Actually this semester. So the students who are transitioning out as far as graduation, we want to make sure that they are connected with whatever four-year institution that they transition to. So if they decide to go to a HBCU or predominantly white institution, if they decide to go to a private liberal arts college, our committee, we want to make sure that that student is connected before they get on campus. So that's part one. And then part two, for our incoming freshman students, we do now have a summer bridge component where they actually can take, so they are on campus for about 3 weeks. They go through a traditional kind of college schedule, as far as they have different time periods where they're taking courses actually by professors that are professors at Anne Arundel Community College. And then they have access. So, one of the courses that we offer is an introduction to English level kind of college preparation, but that's actually taught by one of the professors at AACC, and the same thing that we're doing for math as well. So not only are we connecting students with just kind of some prep work before they get on campus, we're also connecting them with potential professors that they can take. So if a student builds that strong connection with this math professor, they can take them, or that math professor can be a resource for them to connect them with other faculty members on campus that can assist them as well.
And I really love all of that because it speaks to those connections and that sense of belonging, right? That we know is so important. So I love this idea that you're reaching down into the community. I'm only saying down, just thinking like K-12, right? Like you're reaching into those high school partners, doing this summer bridge program to help transition students, and then you're reaching out to the four-year institutions and creating that bridge as well. I would imagine that handoff piece is really very important.
It's crucial
and time intensive, right? So that's the next question, Reggie. I mean, and Jawan, I know you can speak to this too, because you've worked with Reggie, right? Like, have you ever met anybody who has more energy or manages to squeeze? I don't know how the man does it. Like 24 hours somehow in his world is really like 36. But what kind of team do you have helping you at Anne Arundel?
Yeah, absolutely. So with initiatives that, even with trio offices, they're typically not large staffs as far as numbers. So sometimes you are in that position where you are a team of one. So what I have done to combat the team of oneness is to create an institutional-wide committee. So on my committee, I have someone from admissions, financial aid. I have multiple faculty members from different departments. And most importantly, I have added students to the committee as well. The reason I've added students to the committee, because, at first we as a committee, we were planning events, we were planning programs, and we felt that we would be successful. And then not necessarily will fall dead, but we wouldn't have as much student engagement as possible. But now having students on the committee, they were able to share, if you have a Instagram page and you create a reel, I may look at that more than the actual email that you sent me with all the information that you're trying to share. So we've been able to connect and engage with students more. So we're about a team of 8 right now, but we are looking to increase that because there are so many multiple perspectives on campus that we want to capture, we want to gain. So instead of just, again, working in that silo or that team of one mindset, had to open that up and create an institutionalized team. And then within this committee, we add student voices. We have students on our committee as well. And we made our committee inclusive as far as gender as well. So even though we are the Black Male Institute at AACC, we also offer and we welcome all genders, all nationalities, and all race as well, just to make sure that we're inclusive and gain multiple perspectives.
Mm-hmm. And that's a really wonderful transition to kind of our next question about the importance of, because you mentioned this, listening to the needs of our Black male students, right? Like, and we're all, I mean, how many committee teams have we all sat around tables where we're like, well, we think our students need blah, blah, blah. So, and Jawan, feel free to chime in here too, because I'm sure in your work, both at Anne Arundel and then also at UMBC, I know, I'd love to hear kind of you are a student. What are your thoughts about how we can really make sure that we're very intentionally listening to our students and their needs? So either of you feel free to jump on that one.
Perfect. I can, I'll start us off, and Jawan, please feel free to jump in because you've been to multiple programs, and Jawan was actually, so I oversee the assistant to the Student Achievement and Success Program. So he was part of our front desk team as well and did an amazing job in that role too. So one of the things that I was able to implement for our institute was utilizing the importance of qualitative and also quantitative data. So having an actual research design and also a research project template that I was able to share to VPs and also deans, because I will go to meetings and we will have great student stories, but it's just been more powerful and impactful to actually have the data that's capitalizing the student voice. So having data, so we started off with the initial satisfaction surveys to just trying to check in with all the Black males on campus, even if they didn't participate in the Black Male Initiative. How are we doing? What are some programs that you want to see? And most importantly, what's the time that you're available the most? So we were able to find out through that survey data that students were available between 12 and 1, and then also 5 to 6. So we were able to transition our programming from necessarily just kind of picking dates, but actually getting students feedback and input of these are the dates and these are the times that we are available. So that was part one. And then part two is creating focus groups for students as well, because there's only so much information that you can get from your qualitative data. But having the focus groups, you're able to ask students those pinpointed questions to actually see and develop what are some barriers to success for you at Anne Arundel Community College. And outside of that, it gives you an opportunity to see if there's any barriers to success for students in their particular environments that they live in. One example that came from the focus group, I had a student who was trying to submit homework through their iPhone. Their laptop broke, and this student didn't know that our college offered temporary, laptops if you needed one, or, access to our library where they could actually come in and use the computers at the library. So that was a barrier to success, where a student was falling behind, but didn't necessarily need to fall behind. Mm-hmm. But in their student's defense, the student didn't know that the resource was available on campus. So having the focus groups as well. And then third, providing a space for students to actually speak and to gather. So even though we have roundtable discussions, the first 30 minutes is going to be our featured guest speaker. They'll come in and kind of, give information about their department, et cetera. But the last 30 minutes, I leave it open for the Black males on campus to connect. So for them to talk about any issues that they may want to talk about, or just to let them just use that as a networking opportunity as well. So those are three practical strategies. So one, make sure you're, capturing the student voice through surveys. Two, having students' voice through focus groups where you can ask them more pinpointed questions. And then three, creating a space for students to actually have open and free conversations. So, some campuses, they have actual centers where students may meet and gather. So there may be like an Office of Multicultural Student Affairs. Some universities have actual kind of cultural centers where students come in and that's their space. But again, in COVID, we've had to create a virtual space and a virtual platform for our students as well. Jawan, did you want to add anything?
Sure, yeah. So one thing I would definitely say that I've seen that has worked and I actually liked a lot is when faculty or professor actually, take the opportunity to reach out, because as students, most of us, the way we see faculty or, professor is that they really don't care about what's going on in our personal life. And I feel like they also have to try to understand, there's our student, everybody has something different going on in their personal life, different situations that they're in, and just being open-minded that, if there's a student that you see that's not showing up or something like that, reaching out to them. Personally, a great example of this, at least that I really loved and I really appreciate this past time was, there was a school that I applied to, and when I was applying to this school, I really didn't reach out to any of the faculty because I've reached out to so much faculty and none of them really reached out back to me or even emailed me back. So in my mind, there was no, there's no point to me reaching out because they're not going to say anything. But one of the schools that I applied to and I got into, I didn't even know that I got into it, but the faculty that I said I wanted to work with, she reached out to me and she even kind of tried to take the initiative to set up the meeting and things like that. So just reaching out to students, I feel is the number one thing. There are students that will, reach out back, and then there are students that won't. In cases like that, there really isn't one thing I've kind of learned as I'm going on, in this experience is that initiative is both ways. It can only happen one way. So it would be up to the student. And I feel like most students, if they really want to be successful and they are shooting for that goal, they will reach out back to you and let you know hey, yes, I need help, or yes, I can do something right now, or, something like that.
Thank you, Joanne. And I think, you make such an important point that I think one of my hopes as we transition into whatever kind of comes next from pandemic learning is that we're able to see one another's humanity more. I do think traditionally, right, like faculty are kind of the sage on the stage, as we often say at our house, and then the students are just there to learn, and we forget that we're also people, right? And so making sure that we're connecting with one another in those just in a way that really emphasizes our humanity, I think is so important. And I think you bring up a really important thing we need to remember is that we have faculty and staff have a responsibility to be a part of this belonging and the support that students need. And I know our student services folks, and we probably have many of them on the call, I think that we live and breathe this, right? We learn things like student development theory when we're in graduate school programs, but sometimes, not all of us are aware of that responsibility of being part of that system that creates belonging. I want to make sure that we've got just a couple more questions, and I do want to make sure if our audience has any questions that they want to weave into our discussion today, feel free to put those in the chat. Reggie, we talked about, your program, the Black Male Institute is doing work, I know, with the local high schools, and Anne Arundel is an interesting county as far as affluence and I mean, there's, you kind of got a microcosm of the world right there. As we're thinking about how we can support kind of prospective Black male students, are there any resources, things that you're seeing, practices that are being particularly impactful that if you could say, hey, if you're listening and these are the two things you need to know to take away with you?
Absolutely. So the collaboration with your admissions department and your admissions team at your respective institution is going to be crucial and key. One of the strategies that we're implementing is the Summer Bridge program is one. So providing Black males the opportunity to connect on campus and to actually kind of, understand the lay of the land of campus before classes start. Now, for some institutions, you may not be in the department who actually has a Summer Bridge, but collaborating with whoever has the Summer Bridge, whoever has a Summer Bridge at your institution is going to be key. And if there's one that's not created, that could be a strategy to discuss, because there's plenty of research that's showcasing the importance of Summer Bridge programs for Black male students, and not just for Black males who are graduating high school. We're looking at adult learners who are joining Summer Bridge program, veterans who are joining Summer Bridge program, and then COVID, from some of the students I've met who are new to the community college, COVID gave people an opportunity to really, truly discover their purpose and their passion. Is my career field that I'm currently in, is this something that I truly am passionate about? Do I feel that this is my calling? So I have a lot of students who are in job transitions, who haven't been in school for the past 10 to 15 years. So having them actually be a part of the Summer Bridge program is going to be crucial as well. And then two, we're actually going to have a day that's dedicated for Black males before they start on campus. So, just trying to be more inclusive in the programming. Summer Bridge may not be the best option for all students, but actually having a day that's dedicated for them, that's just given another opportunity for connection and developing a sense of belonging. So some of the things that we're going to do with this, kind of like a Black male student day, we will have multiple constituents come and speak to them. So we'll have VP of Student Affairs, Dean of Students come and speak. We'll have someone from financial aid to come and speak. And then we'll have multiple departments to come and speak so they can connect with our Black males on campus again before they start their first day at school, because we want to develop that sense of belonging. And then we're going to give them an opportunity to meet each other as peers as well. And then we also open a space for our allies on campus as well. So even if you don't identify as Black, you still can identify as an ally and still show up and support the students who are transitioning to our campus.
We've had a great question too about how you went about can you give us some more detail about your institutional wide committee
Yes.
that that you have that supports this program. And I love that you're looking at Summer Bridge, but also recognizing that model might not fit all of your students and their student needs. And so having this day, I mean, in my years, my 15 years in the community college system, and Reggie, I think about you and our interaction when you were, straight out of high school, that sense of, and it's very basic. I care about you.
Yep.
I believe in you, and I know that you can do this. And I think about how powerful it is when we get to say that to our students early on in their journey from the get-go.
Right.
And what I think, I don't have any quantitative data on this one, Reggie, but in my experience, when we're able to do that, we see the power of that, right?
Absolutely.
Play out in retention and success. So to circle back, the question from Emmanuel was a wonderful one about sharing more about your institutional-wide committee.
Absolutely. Emmanuel, thank you for that question. And again, today I do want everybody on the call to be able to walk away with practical steps to successfully implement this at your institution or continue to do the great work that you are doing. So the first thing that I did when developing the institutional-wide committee was I developed kind of job descriptions and then committee member descriptions as well. So I know I needed, my strength is not social media. So I know I needed someone to handle social media for me. I know I needed someone to be responsible for recruiting Black males to participate in the initiative. I also know I needed someone that was really great with programming. So someone to kind of take charge and lead of the different programming that we were offering. And then also wanted to have someone to take advantage of the Summer Bridge initiative. And then I also knew I needed someone from admissions to be a part. So I really developed the kind of 5 or 6 strategic positions. And then after that, I was able to have multiple interest meetings. So another strategy that I utilized was making sure that the academic deans were on board with what I was doing. And when I met with the academic deans, I came with them with data and statistics. So one of the things really just showcasing the kind of overall, and one of my VPs told me this too, was I was able to compare the statistics of all males on campus to what the Black males were doing. So we are, even though I'm looking at the Black Male Institute, we are going to expand to include Latinx males as well. But before we can do that, it's just like, let's master one thing first and then kind of expand as we go. But being able to present that data to the academic deans and asking them, okay, this is the help that I potentially would need. So having them to actually push the importance of the interest meetings, it brought a lot of faculty and staff to the interest meetings for me. So one, just developing the strategic positions that I needed, meeting with individuals one-on-one to see if they could fit that need. And then 2, really having the academic deans and really the upper level management support for the initiative was very crucial for me to get people to join the actual committee as well. So we meet about, because again, with COVID and we are having some issues with retention, we meet about 3 times per month now. We meet very frequently, and we're talking about different retention strategies, issues, and then also doing some game planning for the programming that we do as well. So I will start there, develop what do you actually need from this team, and then seeing if your VPs or your deans can push out the message for you, in addition to yourself pushing it out as well.
Talk to me, great question that came in about COVID impact on your students and programming and participation. I also really want to hear about some of the most powerful groups that I've gotten to be a part of as far as moving students along retention wise have been these kinds of committees like what you're speaking about that really come from all across the campus to examine how we can help support our students. So it sounds like retention is a concern. You're not right. Get in line with every other community college out there. And so I'd love to hear as well what your strategies are that you mentioned, that you're brainstorming strategies. What kind of things are you doing Are you seeing anything that's really making a difference? And James also asked the follow-up question, how have your administrators demonstrated kind of their support, which I love that, you went into your deans and you said, here's the data and here's what we need to do. And here's a game plan. I think there's always, presenting that data and then also saying, I got a plan.
Absolutely. That's all great questions. And Jawan, please jump on this too. But what I've been noticing in the students that I've been serving is that Zoom fatigue has been a real thing for students. So, it was at a point where we were making everything virtual as far as programming. But I had a couple of students that came out of the focus groups and said, I'm actually tired of being on the computer from 8 to 3 to 4 the entire day. And then here's another program that I have to kind of jump on. So that was part one. But then part two, we did discover we were missing a whole subsection of students because we were offering programs just in person. So the students that we were missing who weren't able to attend the programs that we were doing in person, they were having a new kind of energy and develop a new sense of belonging on the campus because they were able to start attending all the events that they previously would have missed prior to COVID. So what we have done is created a hybrid model. So we offer programs in person, but they are also live streamed. So I have someone on the team who is just responsible for the live streaming component and also getting all the questions that may pop in the chat. Because even though these students are kind of viewing some programs live stream, we still want them to feel that they are part of the program and still getting their questions answered. So we have developed a hybrid model to now include in-person for our students who prefer the more in-person feel. But then we also live stream that same event for the students who necessarily can't be there in person or who honestly still don't feel comfortable in COVID being in that kind of closed environment and closed space. They're still able to get that program in real time and still have their questions answered as well. So we have now transitioned into a hybrid model offering in-person services, but having the event live stream. And then the second part, Juwan, did you want to talk about Zoom fatigue from a student perspective?
Yeah, no, I can add a little bit to it. I know. So one thing that I kind of learned going through, the whole entire pandemic and things like that is that in a lot of ways, schooling has become like, being there in person every time, which is not a bad thing. It's a great thing and it's a wonderful thing. And it's just like with the Zoom, like with everybody moving to school, like a lot of people were just kind of like replicating what they had in person and just putting it straight onto Zoom, which doesn't work. At least in the beginning, it wasn't working. So like, at least with my program, with the McNair program at UMBC, we usually had like this orientation weekend. And in the past, it's been like, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and it's from like 9 a.m. all the way to like 9 p.m. And the first year we did that, like we planned that, we did that exact thing on Zoom, which was crazy because the student had to sit in front of the computer from like 9 a.m. all the way to like 9 p.m. And it was a lot. And people got tired, even I got tired to the point where like there are times when I was in like 3 meetings together while that was going on, kind of like trying to pay attention to everything because, being on Zoom, I thought I can do it, which sometime I was able to achieve it and I got information out of all the meetings that I needed. And sometimes it was just kind of like an overflow. But one thing that I did learn that you also said was like the hybrid method, which really kind of like is working, and I really thought it's a great way to kind of do it, and just being minded that sitting in front of the screen was like just way too much when the Zoom that whole thing happened. So I really do kind of like agree with you about the hybrid method, and that is the way that I see that a lot of people have been using, including like us. So right now I'm in the process of planning like the orientation weekend for like the McNair Scholar program at UMBC. And we're still using that same type of model because now we're going to be in person, but we still kind of like give our speakers like the option to like, come in through Zoom and be on Zoom and then, they don't have to be there in person if they don't feel like it. So I do agree, like the hybrid method is the kind of like the best way to go. And also being mindful of like scheduling break in between each meeting, because that really does help. Just maybe like 10-15 minute break for people to step away from the screen is helpful.
That's awesome. Thank you. Yes. I mean, I think we're all learning new ways and modalities of getting students engaged, not exhausting them, making sure that we're connecting with them. I know we've gone a few minutes over and we've got a couple of additional questions. I'm hoping maybe we can address one question and then I can send the rest to you and Jawan maybe to respond via email, because I want to be conscious of our time together today. But kind of a last question, because it sort of came up twice, is what are we doing retention wise, right? We're concerned about students and their success, and just wondering the question, if there's specific things, you're doing with your student population who you're concerned about. And James posted the question, what happens to students who fall behind, even with the help, those who just stopped showing up? How do you continue to keep contact? So curious, Reggie, what specific initiatives you're trying with retention?
Perfect. So I wanted to address the fall behind question first, because and I'm speaking from my identity as a first generation college student, and then also just representing students who are first generation college students who have said this kind of same story to me. There have been students I've worked with who may have had a 3.4 leading up to Thanksgiving and Christmas break. And then when they come back on campus, there's like a significant drop off. And I kept seeing this trend within data of students that I was working with, and just having kind of conversations with them, one-on-one, office door shut, just kind of me and the student, just trying to having a real convo. Some of our first generation college students, when they go home, they experience more trauma than, a family member may ostracize them for being the first one in their family to go and say, well, you think saying things like you think you're better than us now since you've achieved this certain level. I know if I have experienced that, in their neighborhoods, they may try to go around their friends that they went to high school with, and their friends didn't take that same path. So they may get ostracized or criticized for that route. So if there's that high achieving student, and then they come back on campus and something is off, or their grades are starting to slip, sometimes it's because they have experienced some sort of trauma going back into a negative environment for them in their new growth in their new person, because they are changing and they're evolving. But if they're going into situations where they're not getting that reciprocated, that can discourage students. So with those students who are falling behind, that's why it's important. In addition to programming, we do have those checkpoints with students. So we have that initial, mid-semester, and then we also have that checkpoint when students return back to campus from any break. So from the Thanksgiving break, winter break, and then spring break for some institutions. We do have that kind of check-in, and then we collaborate with our counseling department to provide, I'm not trained as a counselor. So if a student needs kind of some more in-depth training or kind of, healing or therapy, we do connect with that, because we do try to focus on holistically. And that's something that I recently implemented to really address trauma for our first generation college students who may go into environments where they are ostracized, criticized, or something is happening over the breaks when they do come back, and something is making them fall off. So I did want to address that point. And then the second thing has been the early alert system, and then the multiple checkpoints throughout the semester. So it isn't much of a drop off. But even with these in place, there still can be a drop off, but there is measures to kind of try to prevent that. And I know that has been preventing some drop off for me. So I wanted to answer that. Second, to the retention question, one, I really had to get a clear definition. And I think we just have to get a clear definition of what retention actually means at the particular institution, and what's the metrics of success for retention. So for some institutions, retention is going to be the students who successfully complete a semester. That may be their number one metrics of retention. For other institutions, the grade point average from semester to semester may be the ultimate metric. And then for third, retention may be measured on the graduation rates. So institution may prize itself on graduating students within 4 to 5 years, but not necessarily have an emphasis on grade point average. Or institution may say retention is based on grade point average, and really it's not focused. As long as students get out within the 6-year frame, they're more excited about that. So just with colleagues I've talked to and just the multiple institutions I've worked at, the retention metric has been different. So it hasn't been a universal, this is what retention means. So whatever institution you're at, I think you have to be really clear on what's the number one metric for retention. Is it going to be based on grade point average? Is it going to be based on semester to semester completion? Or is it going to be based on graduation rates?
Thank you, Reggie. This has been, I'm sorry we've gone over time, but I'm sorry we have to end our discussion. I mean, this has just been pages of notes for me, and I'm thinking about, future topics of discussion. So much to unpack as far as how are we building out these very comprehensive, holistic programs that are supporting our male students, or particularly our Black male students or students of color. How are we then also thinking of, the sense of belonging and being very intentional about that? And Reggie, I mean, I think that's very new in the community college system. Community colleges haven't had admissions people forever. I mean, a lot of this is very new work that we're doing at our 2-year institutions in particular. And then also thinking about understanding our students from that place of trauma. I mean, I think there's so much to unpack there. I really do feel like trauma-informed care could really revolutionize the work that we do in some amazing ways. It's going to take some real intentionality, but really important. Jawan, thank you so much for your time. What a gift for all of us. And your thoughts, and we're all cheering you on. Everyone on this call is so excited about your next steps. We want to know where you're going. We want to know how it goes. So once you're part of the Friday 5 Live family, sorry, you're kind of stuck with us, Jawan. So no, we're cheering you on. We're going to rejoin Friday 5 Lives. We do this monthly. April 1st, we're going to be talking about why are our students failing. Lots of thoughts that we were going to come back together and everybody was going to be doing really well once we were sort of more in person. And we're really not seeing that to be the case. And so thinking about some strategies about how we can support our students as we end up this semester and as we look towards kind of the fall semester as well. So Reggie, just from the bottom of my heart, every time you speak, I just get so emotional. So you are just an amazing practitioner, and we are very, very fortunate to have the kind of leader that you are doing the work that you're doing.
Yep. Thank you so much. And thank you again for the invite. Hope everybody enjoyed. Please feel free to reach out to me via LinkedIn, Twitter, email, etc. I am definitely here to help. And if you just need someone just to talk it through,